Hello and Welcome to Friday, Energy FM and Manx users weekly peruse around the landscape that is Manx news. Joining me on my tropical beach this week is the Angel of the North, Charlie Murray. Hey,
Hello,
darling.
Sam. Hey, girly. You sound so over it today.
Well, yeah, I've got like my recurring eye issue, which is why we're not doing a video version of this week because I basically would look less ridiculous if I went around with fucking pirate's eye patch on. Um, Yeah, so I'm just done in today. It's just a long day. I've got this thing with like my eyelashes are grating over over the lens, and like it's driving me insane. So it's been a long, fun morning. Also, I'm waiting for Storm Amy, which I've christened Storm Amy McDonald because she's my second favorite Amy. And my first is my friend from uni called Amy, but no one knows who she is. So it'd be pointless for me to go, Amy from Zimbabwe. She's cool. Um, Yeah, so we've got yeah, I'm waiting for the storm, but apparently with the worst of it's not even going to come here now. So
Yeah, I think the worst the weather's going to be the Safi. But like I ran around like a blue ass fly this morning trying to get everything done with the horses and what have you. And now I'm kind of a bit like I'm looking out of the window and it looks absolutely fine. Like no
yeah,
worse than just, a blustery rainy day.
yeah, I mean it's set to get worse later on and then into tomorrow, but I think this thing of like the 70-mile-an-hour gusts, the Met Office here is sort of moving away from that. I'll probably be
Mm,
proved wrong by the time this goes out, but I was looking at that today. They're saying sort of like it'll be gusty in the morning and then it'll drop off pretty into the afternoon, into the later on Saturday, which is good because FC Man are playing at home tomorrow night and we could do the opposition getting here. So
Well, as you know, Sam, I am a weather nerd. My most used app is XC Weather.
yeah.
I'm on it like 5 times an hour minimum. Um, and it's kind of been chopping and changing. Like up in the north, I don't think we're actually going to get it as bad as the likes of Castletown and Port St. Mary. So it is meant to come in and be at its worst probably between 3 and 6 o'clock this evening. And like in the north, it's going to be like 62-mile-an-hour gusts, but still only an average actually of 36, like the general. So it's not bad. And then down the south of the island, they're going to be getting like 66-mile-an-hour gusts, but their average, like their wind speed is going to be 48. So it is going to be worse down there, but it still isn't. It's not going to be great, but it's not going to be holy shit, this is horrendous. I think, you often get this though for the first storm of the season, all the hysteria around it. And, I think I wouldn't say we've done much on it. We've basically said it's going to be a bit windy and your boats are going to be cancelled. And if you're flying, just double check. Whereas I feel like a lot of other news outlets love to use this as an absolute let's get these website figures up and cause a bit of a panic
I
where
mean, I do always enjoy the panic buying scramble that is knowing that there's going to be no boat for a day or so.
yeah, like
I
come
mean,
off it.
personally, I have been to Tesco and bought 84 packets of toilet roll and 2,000 tins of chopped tomato. So,
Oh, likewise, I've also stockpiled bread and put it in the freezer. And I got about 100 cans of beans, so we could get on our rations and just live on beans on toast for the next.
have you got your torch just in case there's a power cut?
Oh, yes, of course. I've got
Good.
multiple batteries ready for it. Don't you
Stay safe.
worry.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yes, we're basically living. It's going to be a war zone, Sam. Shops are shut,
I, I
electricity out.
I think the North of Ireland is anyway. So
That's why I love it.
bad bitches roll in the North.
Bad bitches roll in the north. Correct.
Uh,
Correct.
the other sort of before we get into the podcast, the other bit of news this morning is really sad. Dame Patricia Routledge has died.
Oh,
Rise to
we've
the
had quite
UK.
a few legends. We've had a few legends die this week, haven't we?
Yeah, but yeah,
Obviously, we had
Rise to
Jane
the
Goodall
UK.
as well, didn't we?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know who that was.
Oh my God, Sam.
Yeah, but you got to remember my celebrity perspective is pretty off. There's a lot of people I don't know who they are.
But
Uh,
she loved animals and orangutans. How could you not be amongst that?
I just don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, I've been keeping up with a competition this week in Alaska to find the best big bear,
Fuck's sake.
which was run by
Tell me about this competition.
they find the biggest bear, or not even necessarily the biggest, but like like they pick like all these different big bears that are photographed in the wild, and then the public vote on their favorite bear. And the one that won this year has got he's suffered a broken jaw at some point, and he's got a bit of a wonky face. I think he's called Chunk. So
See, you shouldn't tell me these kind of things because I'll start crying on the podcast. Like, you know how soft I am when it comes to animals. I saw a picture of a puppy the other day that had like a really wonky smile. I looked at it and cried for 10 minutes.
oh, see, I really like bears. It's one of my dream holidays is to go to Alaska and just sit and watch some bears doing bear things.
Have you ever seen a bear?
No.
Do you want me to
Well,
make you
kind of.
really jealous?
I went to Wisconsin and they've got black bears in like a sort of like it's kind of like it's not like a zoo, but it's like a bit where they've got like, a really big open space, but then there's like glassed walkway that you can go through to sort of like
Oh,
go look at
cool.
it all. So I saw some bears then. They're cool. I really like bears.
So I actually, did you know that there are bears in Florida?
No.
Neither did I. And when I was working there, we were on our way to a horse show and we were going down the road. And I saw, to start with, like a black like flash go in front of the car, and I was like, "What?" And then I properly like zoned in. It was a baby bear running across the road, and I turned to my friends and I was like, "What was that?" And they were like, "Yeah, a bear." And I was like, "Holy shit!" I was asking
Bears
everyone to
and
stop the car. I was in a full blow, and like you can imagine, I was crying, screaming, throwing up at the fact that I'd just seen a bear.
bears and alligators should not be living that close together.
It doesn't make sense. It
No,
really just doesn't make sense.
like when you think about it, like there's no way that penguins know. Uh, there's no way that penguins know that like I don't know camels exist.
That is such a weird concept. What do you think would be the weirdest animal to like to to meet each other? Does that make
Uh,
sense? Like a crossover.
I think penguins and camels is pretty out there.
Do you think the penguins would ride the camels?
Well, based on the documentary evidence of Madagascar, they are very good at running things, the penguins, including union negotiations with the monkeys.
Love the other week. I made Jamie watch all the Madagascar films and the penguin spin-off because those penguins are just so funny. I love the way they smack the other one on their head and they're there. And then, do you know, when he marries, he like he doesn't marry, but he like dates the little doll, doesn't he? Oh, I love
Smile
them.
and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Alan wave. That should just be our motto. That's all we do, isn't it?
Well, we don't smile or wave, but yeah.
Yeah, we do the complete opposite. We glare and give them the bird.
Yeah. Right. On
Right.
that note, we should
Should we
probably do
actually get
some.
some news done? Because we're both quite clearly clinically depressed right now.
I'm
The
not
weather has
clinically
turned.
depressed.
Oh,
I don't mind the weather being like this. I just won't be bothered.
I just can't be bothered. Okay, Sam, that's really good. Well, I'll try and be the vibe creator because the weather has got to me and I'm just like, just because it's like, ugh. It's just a bit like, eh. Do you know what I mean? It's not fully crap, but it's not nice. So it's just a, ugh.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's start with something that's not nice, which is the people going to the VillaGaiety are going to be told to be quiet.
Yes, I saw your story about this.
I mean, beyond the fact that I am unbelievably annoyed that actual ministerial, parliamentary, and officer time was taken up by this. By the way, like
Yeah.
just insane that there was the need felt for this to be a written question. But Vilgate is in the process of introducing operational adjustments to tell people attending shows to button it. Daphne Caney, Minister for Sport, Education and Culture, that's the wrong way around, says the Vilgate is in the process of introducing operational adjustments to promote audience awareness regarding the impact of conversations during performances for both audience members and performers. I think we need to normalise other audience members telling someone to shut the fuck up.
I could not agree more because there's nothing more annoying than you're trying to watch something, you're having a good time, you've paid money to go and see it, not listen to some twat behind you yabber on to their mate, and you just like shut the fuck up. Like, I've not come here to just listen to you gob off. If you want to go do that, go outside, have some respect for everyone else that's in here.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
it's just it's bewildering that it goes on to the extent it does, but equally, like I don't understand why people would pay money themselves to go and talk through something else.
I
But
think people are just arrogant, to be honest with you, Sam. I think a lot of people nowadays have no respect. They have no thought for anyone else, and they're very self-centered.
well, you'll be glad to know, Charles, there will also be increased security staff presence for specific high capacity events to help mitigate against such instances. Now, I love the idea that this isn't just comedy or something. I love the idea that sort of like a band's playing and you've just got security members going around going, "Excuse me, sir, I hope you're singing the words to Ruby and not having a conversation about your evening plans." Or you'll have to have like a conversation about what you're up to, but to the tune of whatever song's playing.
Okay, please. I want you to do an example of that. We can use Ruby because it's probably already in your head.
No, I tell you what, let's use Belinda Carlisle's "Heaven is a Place on Earth," right? So there
Okay.
you go, and ooh, matey, are you going to Jack's after this? That's as far as I'm going with it. But there, yeah, it's just sort of like, just
I don't even know what that was. Why wouldn't you just like? I think you should stop to Ruby because it'd have been a much easier one to do. Being
okay. What did you before? Oh, we went for a curry, 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 curry. Vindaloo.
you could go. I had none
Exactly.
bread. Yeah, that would work.
So yeah, I mean, on every level, this is a ridiculous story. On the fact that this has wasted, I'm sorry, this has wasted ministerial time. Whether you think the politicians do enough or not, what a waste of time this is. This could have been an email, and it should have been an email. But there we go.
It could
And
also just tell people to do a better job and be better human beings and to have some
yeah,
respect. I think just go around smacking people on the back of the head if they're talking,
yeah, why not?
or have a water pistol in there. Talking, shut up. I'll be throwing water bombs at them.
So I remember I went to Kevin Bridges' show at the Villa a few years ago where somebody kept shouting something, and in the end he snapped and went, "Oi, mate, why don't you just take a jump off the fucking balcony?" And I went, in fact, go full on. And you know, have you ever seen South Park?
Yes.
Do you know Timmy?
Yes.
He goes, mate, you're the sort of person who goes outside and just wandering around going, Timmy. And you're like,
Right, news, Sam. Let's try
that
to stick
was news.
on. I know, but it's pathetic that it was news, isn't it?
Okay, fine, I'll do some proper news. Bus Vannon is ready to make any necessary amendments needed when more 20-mile-an-hour zones are brought in. So the minister had previously said the DOI was not expecting bus service availability to be significantly affected. However, this has now become Bus Vannon is ready to make changes. So which is it, quite frankly? You know, you can't have this both ways. It's either we've got we don't have to make any changes because it's not going to be a massive impact, or yeah, we're going to have to change the bus timetable. It can't be both. It literally can't. So
I feel like this has just been such a badly thought out policy.
I just think they've gone too far. This all started because they wanted a 20-mile-an-hour zone around one high school. And then it became, do you know what? It should probably be around every high school. And yeah, it probably should. And then bit by bit, it became, well, actually, hold on a minute. And then it's just like, how has this become everywhere should be 20 mile an hour? Timwell's gone too far, quite frankly.
That's what we have when we have a communist state, Sam. They want control over
Oh, I
everything.
wish we had communism.
I feel like I can't even talk about socialism and communism today. It'll just send me over the edge.
Comrade Murray, get yourself in perspective or go re-educate yourself.
Fuck off.
Right, Glenn, what's caught your eye this week?
What's caught my eye this week? I've actually had like a really busy week this week, Sam. I've spoken to Laurie Hooper, I've spoken to Claire Christian, and I've spoken to Alex Allenson. So I want to touch on those in a moment. But actually, quite a few of your stories have caught my eye this week. Um, the Manx Care has been given an extra £4 million. Could you just touch on that for a little sec?
Yeah, so basically, there's a written question again. It's a big week for written questions. Um, Former Health Minister Laurie Hooper asked about a £4.3 million a, bit of money in the DHSC budget for the year, which has now been reallocated to Manx Care for its mandate budget, which the minister said is available to contribute towards cost pressures within Manx Care. That's the new minister, well, not new, but the minister, Claire Christian, who said the full contingency had been assigned due to the anticipated financial pressures being faced by Manx Care. This took its annual budget from £357,513,000 to £361,822,000. Now, we already know Manx Care is going to be over budget this year. We also had a report into Manx Care that come out this week. Its annual report came out, which was not good. So I, they're trying to paint the fact that they've opened a care home in a good light, and you're going, that being the care home that you admitted you can't staff, so you had to hire out to a third party. You know.
Talking of care homes, there's been a bit of bad press on care homes this week, hasn't there?
Well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, you got the one that you spoke to Laurie Hoop about with Ramsey, and come on more about what's going to happen up there. We think we
Yeah,
could, the problem we could drop that in probably.
yeah. Let's drop Laurie in here and hear what he has to say about More.
I think the concerns are the building itself, we know, isn't up to modern standards, and despite the fact that the staff there are brilliant and do an amazing job, and actually the residents are pretty happy by and large, um, they deserve a better quality facility, the staff and the residents do. And so my worry is if this doesn't go ahead, does that mean we're not going to be providing those staff and those residents with the best possible place to live and work? Actually, we're probably not. So we do need that new facility. It's really important to me as well that facility is kept as a government facility in some way, because as you know yourself, private care on the Isle of Man is quite expensive, especially when it's long term, when it's that level of care that's needed, and what they provide in Common is pretty decent. And we need to make sure that there is a service that's available for everybody. And so I'm quite worried that this doesn't go ahead. I don't know what the future looks like for care in Ramsey Care in the north from a government perspective, and that is another big question that needs to be answered.
And do you think if it doesn't go ahead, or the whole sort of delaying on giving a straight answer, do you think that's down to cost, or what do you think the reasoning is?
It will be, I think, ultimately financial. I can't picture any reason why you wouldn't provide new facilities and replacement facilities if it wasn't budgetary. I think there were questions around what we need, like what sort of facility do you need and what actually needs to be delivered. But to my mind, that's more about how you configure the internal parts of the building. That is all about the number of rooms, the size of rooms, that kind of thing. It's not necessarily about answering that question, do we go ahead and replace this or not? And I would have thought by now we'd have had much more information out of the health department, out of the minister, about exactly what is being proposed. I mean, they had planning permission on that site a number of years ago, so there is a planning permission that's already live, basically. So if they need to make some changes to that, they'll need to go through a planning process, but I haven't seen any of that start either. So it feels to me there have been a lot of delays here that have been unexplained, and I've not had any reason at all given by the minister as to why this is taking so much longer than even she originally thought.
Boom. Yeah, so you can see the full interview with Laurie. You can hear the full interview. I don't know. Have we got that? Have we got that? I should know this. Have we got the audio? Have we got the video? Whatever form that's in, you can find out more on that on Manx.news. And yeah,
It's
obviously,
so obvious when we do this on a Friday because neither of us are like operating.
yeah. Well, you were the one who was busy yesterday. I was sat here diligently working.
I was working. I was in government offices.
Hey, I only watched 4 episodes of Downton Abbey yesterday. Right, that's how busy I was.
I hate those days when you can't watch as much TV as you want to. It's really inconsiderate.
I know.
So yeah, that's what Laurie had to say about More, and it is quite an interesting one because obviously this has been going on since 2023. We all remember the big kickoff, and Laurie was health minister at the time when it came out, wasn't he? And it's sort of just it's the last Manx care run care home in the north of the island. That's one thing, but also for over 2 years, these residents, the staff, the families actually have no clue what's going on, and these are some of the most vulnerable people in our society, and we don't know what's happening, where they're going to go. And like as Laurie rightly said, these are some people that have lived their whole lives in Ramsey. And it might not seem a big thing, but then to move them into a different area at that stage of life can be quite unsettling. It's a bit unfair, really, to move them out of that spot. But yes, that's what's going on with Cumbermore.
Well, you had the
But
same thing.
equally,
Admittedly, this is like not a Manx care thing because it was a charity-run thing. But you had the same thing with the Corran Memorial Home in Peel, where people who'd lived in Peel all their lives were getting moved out of Peel, and it was just sort of like, how is this better than finding a bit of money to sort of keep this running while we find a better solution? It was, and even with this now, obviously capital investment costs a lot of money, but where are we up? Why is this 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road, whatever it is, and we've not got any further? Like,
yeah, it's not on.
bear in mind, Castle Russian High School was meant to be replaced when I was at school.
I don't think that's ever happening, Bab.
I think it'll happen one day. But I do also remember during the last uh, election campaign being told by a minister that the blueprints were ready to go and bulldozers would be in the ground. I was like, well,
I've just, I, but when they come out with things like this, do members of government understand why the public don't trust them and don't believe a word that comes out of their mouth?
I don't know. It's like they just think the public have a short-term memory span. And you're going, the one thing you really should remember about the Manx public, know how to hold a grudge.
Yes, they do. We certainly know that. And stop treating them like they're idiots. And I think that that's the bit that really annoys me actually throughout all of it is that I find it really hurtful actually that we're to be treated like we're just some morons, that we're just the little people and we have no idea and no say or no influence in any of it. And actually, I think often I don't know, I do, I don't know about you, but feel like you're unimportant, you don't matter.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of things in that with people. I mean, there is an element of public, the government can't have it both ways, the public can't have it both ways. We either have a consultation over what colour paper clips the OR using that month, or we just crack on with things that don't really get properly scrutinised and don't properly get considered by members or indeed the government, or they don't go out to consultation enough, which is a weird combination of things where they're going out to consultation on too much and not enough. So.
I think also the amount of control they want at times and actually sort of just let people crack on within reason. You don't need to make their lives more difficult. Their lives are already difficult. The
Oh
government
yeah,
should
I
be.
mean, I can't think of anything the government has done in the last, and not just this government. I do mean like successive governments have really done to make things just easier to run.
They haven't.
But
They've made
every
it.
business you speak to in every sector, they'll be like, they've put this in and they've put this in and they've made this harder and they've made this harder. And yeah, it's just yeah. Speaking on business, actually, we'll take a quick break and then come back to discuss a big business news of the week.
Welcome back to Welcome to Friday with Charlie Murray and Sam Turton, who are both clearly feeling a little blue on this Friday as Storm Amy is making herself well known. But Sam promised some business news. Sam, are we thinking about the same business news?
Well, I mean, in the words of McDonald, as the wind whistles down the cold, dark streets tonight, people will no doubt be discussing in the pubs across the island tonight the proposed minimum wage increase.
Yeah.
So this has sort of rumbled on now for a few days, which is there's a new minimum wage being proposed at 13.46 an hour, which is set to come in April, subject to Tynwald approval. However, this has been met with businesses who are concerned about it, who are saying, look, right, it's not just a case of putting the minimum wage up, because if you've got a chef who's on like £1 more an hour than a kitchen porter, whatever, then they're obviously their wages have got to go up to reflect the seniority of people's, and everything, prices going up and everything else. But the thing that I really got caught up on this week was the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I
So
get that.
the Chamber of Commerce has criticised the proposed minimum wage, despite twice backing it. So this is a bit of a quick plot history. There was a Tynwald motion, which then the government brought forward by a year to align the minimum and the living wage on the island. The government has then done its best to trash that living wage as much as it can, and to move to what they then said, right, the minimum wage will be the medium wage. So at the time, the chamber was saying, look, well, we need to discuss whether the median wage includes government wages because, as we all know, they're a lot higher than the private sector in some areas, quite a lot of areas, really. But um, because of that, basically, you then get the situation where the median wage is now higher than it possibly should be because they're taking the median wage for the whole island as opposed to just the private sector. But when you go back to July, when they moved to this system, instead of saying, look, we're going to have a minimum wage committee set the minimum wage every year, they said this is going to be how it's done. The Chamber of Commerce backed that. And they come out and said, um, where we go back to June Timwald. It called on in June, sorry, it called on Timwell to back the proposals, the Department for Enterprise report, which would change how the minimum wage and living wages were calculated. It called on members to back the move, saying it'd be seeking further clarity on how the median wage is calculated, but goes on to say Chamber supports the Department for Enterprise's review recommendations to move to a calculation based on 66% of median earnings because this method reflects international norms and provides a data-led and responsive basis for wage setting. Then, after Timwell backed this and voted it through, it would point to warning success of this approach will depend on how the median benchmark is defined and applied, but then said it welcomed the approval of a new methodology linking the minimum wage to median earnings and called it an important step towards a more consistent and evidence-based wage setting system and one that supports fair play while maintaining economic viability for employers. Fast forward to this very week. Chamber noted that in July changes to the minimum wage were imminent. No, you didn't note that. You support that. It then the now confirmed 9.9% increase represents one of the largest adjustments in recent years and a jump that will make it one of the highest minimum wages globally. Right? Okay. This comes at a time when official figures show that inflation is considerably lower. Again, fair enough, a very valid point. But to try and just move away from the fact that you supported this as a system, your lobbying group come together and said, this is the route we've got to go down. If you had this much concern back in June, you should have come out and said, we should not be doing this. Instead of somewhere down in the footnotes, by the way, we need to change this and make sure it's all okay. No, you should have come out and said, this is a bad system. You cannot back a system and then 4 months later go, this is complete bollocks.
I couldn't agree more with what you've just said, to be honest, Sam. And I think that was a well-worthy rant. Absolutely. Because this is no shock to them. And I think Chamber holds a very important position in helping lobbying against government for the private sector. But I think they have done an awful job. I think they've been weak. I think they've just they bow down to government when it suits them. And I don't think they have that much of a backbone. And I don't think that they're actually looking after the small businesses that this is going to affect. Because if they were, back, like you said, when this all kicked off, they could have shouted from the rooftops, and they didn't.
No, I don't think they did.
Yeah, no, I don't think they did. I think that it was very, very weak response to it. And now coming out and giving a bit of a half-hearted, no, we're not against, we are against it. It's like, well, it's a bit late now, lads. Like, what did they expect?
Yeah, I mean, also, just as a quick thing, Guernsey, I believe, is Guernsey who have just is it Guernsey who've set a new minimum wage, or is it Jersey? One of them's just set a new minimum wage, which I think is very close to what ours is likely to be. From September 1st this year, Jersey's minimum wage became £13 an hour. The proposal on the Isle of Man would take ours to £13.46 an hour. But then Jersey also has they have a bizarre thing for how theirs is done. So there's like a maximum weekly offset for accommodation things. So it's like, because theirs is a lot more in and out employment. People come in, work the season, go away again. So a lot of people get part of their wage will be towards living in the hotel they're working in, for example. So there's a thing with that in Jersey. I think that's how it works. If I'm wrong on that, shoot me, whatever. But yeah, so that's how that all comes together. But again, I get businesses are genuinely worried. I get this is a big jump. I also get that it may not solve things because there are things that you've spoken to Dr. Hanson about, which we'll cover next week, around tax thresholds and what more can be done to support businesses and that. But I just really, this rank hypocrisy of people, MHKs, by the way, not just Chamber, MHKs who are now coming out and going, I don't know if this is the right thing. This will damage small businesses. Oh, there's an election coming, is there? Because you all fucking voted for it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Tynwald when this gets brought up. I think it's going to go through. Um,
Probably.
and
What
I
else are they
think
going to do? Tynwald are not collectively stupid enough to go, by the way, something we did 4 months ago. What a mental idea that was.
I just feel I think the reason it bothers me so much is like does it directly affect me on the no, because I'm not, it doesn't. But it does directly affect everyone, or second, I suppose it does affect everyone because it is going to pass on the costs. And this is what I spoke to Dr. Anson about. And partially, I personally felt that it fell upon deaf ears. I think the decision has been made. I don't think government particularly actually care. I think they say they care and they'll point you to DFE for help, but it's already too late. At that point, businesses are saying this is, and at no point is this trying to punish the low paid worker. And I think that's the bit that sometimes can get twisted. It isn't to punish them. That's why we've mentioned the thresholds to make sure they're okay. And also to keep the minimum wage where it is, to guarantee them a job or do your best at trying to guarantee them a job. But the real danger of this going up is the amount of people that are going to be left with no work or have their hours reduced. Then those people are going to end up being on a job seekers allowance and costing the government more.
Yeah.
And
And
it,
also, you will get small businesses that will go to the wall, which I think that's always overplayed a little bit. But also, we have seen business, in the past week, we've seen two businesses announce their closures. So, I think it does get overplayed a little bit how much increases will impact things.
I
But
think it does, but I think we also have to bear in mind the economic climate that we're currently in compared to when this has happened. Like you and I know, at the end of the month, we've got nothing left over. Like we don't. It's hard, and we're certainly not alone in that position.
well,
And then when you bring a business into it that's of that small group, because we're not talking about large businesses in this that this is going to affect. These are your small businesses that are the backbone of our society. This isn't some big corporate massive. And it's those guys that it's going to really affect because times are tough for them as is. Never mind having to find these extra costs that are then going to get passed on to us.
I think the one thing is that with that, it's the knock-on effect of losing a small business isn't necessarily for the person who runs a business. It's very sad. For the people who work there, it's very sad. It's the knock-on thing of having empty shops, because the more empty units you got, the fewer reasons you got to go to town. The more people buy online. The rolling impact of that. And we've been living in an economy realistically for 17 years, which is promised jam tomorrow, and we ain't had it. But yeah, I think it'll be very interesting how this debate plays out. I think there's a lot of genuine concern from businesses. I just think that they've painted themselves into a corner that they're now going to have to they're going to have to stick to their guns.
I just think it's really, really sad. You take a walk down Strand Street and it's bloody embarrassing. And I think how the government can sit there and act proud of this island that they say they're doing so much for. You take a walk down there, it's shameful. It's absolutely shameful. And I think we can give some businesses subsidies. We can do this, but actually, how about we just let them run as a business? We should never ever be in a position where we're encouraging businesses to only survive by a subsidy. That should never be the case that we're in.
No.
And I just think it's desperately sad. And yeah, God forbid some of us actually care about those businesses and care about that. And I just think it's a bloody crying shame that it doesn't seem to be taken that seriously. And I think that this minimum wage is a short term solution for this government. I don't think there's any long term planning in there. And when we go through the Dr. Anson interview, he will dispute that. But that's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, well, just a quick thing because we are running slightly out of time. Is we say about long-term strategy and thinking. The Alistair Ramsey, who was formerly government head honcho for communications, he's written an opinion piece this week about the most striking thing about the final government conference of the Khan administration held last week was how different it was from the first. We've gone from a boosterish celebration of a long-term economic strategy to be reviewed. We're going to look at it. we're going to do this and see what happens. And his whole thing is basically the long-term economic strategy is gone. It was going to be 15 years. It's barely survived 3. So if you want to have a read of that, it's on Manx.news as well. Alistair Ramsey's piece, really good read actually on that. And yeah, so Charlie, let's finish on some positivity because we've got about just under 2 minutes. So go.
I want to have one quick one that I think is positive, and it's actually the health and social care bill. So I spoke to Claire Christian. We can pop a little bit of her in a second, but basically there'd been a bit of a misconception about it that government were going to start regulating complementary therapies, i.e. like a massage therapist or someone doing nails or someone doing hypnotherapy. That's not the case. There's been a lot of mixed messaging, dare I say, maybe not a very clear message coming out of government. Wouldn't be the first time, probably not going to be the last. But I had quite a few businesses get in touch with me, being really concerned that their small business, yet again, the target, was going to get penalised. But actually, in this case, they're not. So yeah, spoke to the minister. She clarified it all for me. So you can listen to her now. Obviously, this is currently at consultation, and I think there may have been a few potentially mixed messages going around about it. So could you just explain to me what it really is?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Currently the Department of Health and Social Care are looking to introduce and modernise what's called the Regulation of Health and Social Care Services. And what this bill looks to introduce is to just widen the criteria currently under law to other medical services, dental services, and other health services provided by allied health professionals. And I think you're absolutely right. I think unfortunately there's been some misinformation, that I hope I can give reassurance to small businesses and independent self-employed people that we're not looking to bring under the legislation people that are giving services like life coaching or mentoring or Reiki or nail technicians. I think we all agree that those services are not services that need to be regulating.
And you can read more about it on Manx.news.
I don't plan to get into it, but I love the idea that hypnotherapists are going to be monitored by the government. Like just that idea as alone just really strikes me. Yeah, so obviously going into the weekend now, there's going to be a lot more disruption for the weekend. Obviously, the sailing's all cancelled tomorrow. There's going to be flights cancelled. I've seen few sport and things getting called off already, so you can find more on that and the Armageddon that is Storm Amy McDonald on Manx.news. And for now, it's I think we'll put her off into the distance.
Let's just put her off into the sunset, Sam. Just never to return and let the island go up in flames and it not be our problem.
Love it. Well, on that cheerful note, it's goodbye to Carly.
Let's go.